anyways, I had went through my group and said, okay, who's done their 20? And Phoenix and Tyler were the only two that did the 20. The others are on their way, but not to their 20. But it was really interesting because I said, how has that been helpful to do that? And Phoenix said, well, I've taken 7 listings. And I went, yeah, I'd say it's helpful.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've gone through and I'm trying to, I really loved all the questions that you asked.
Mhm.
And I think it'll be great to have that just confident experience throughout high school.
Mhm.
I mean, it covers all the things you need. It's not that marketing plan for the conversational.
Really easy. I did one this week and went through the questions, and just the husband was there. The wife wasn't able to be there. They work split shifts, and asked the questions and went through the pricing, and hadn't even, well, went, did the questions, went through the house, told them what they needed to do. They got an A, and I don't give A's easily, meaning they have almost nothing to have to do in that house. Where on the way here, I stopped at another house that I have that's coming out in a week and key boxed it for the photographer. And I went, I'm not going to keep you all. You still have way more work to do. So that's usually what happens. But anyways, he just was like, let's just go ahead and do this. I mean, it's that easy. If you do those questions up front, you walk through and you talk about what needs to be done in the house, there, the confidence is there.
As far as I look at your 24-point marketing, what is that staging? You actually hire a stager, or do you just give them suggestions?
So most of the time, probably 90% of the time, I am just helping them with what they need to do, getting rid of stuff, rearranging stuff.
So those suggestions just come with experience.
They do come with experience. And the experience mostly comes from you going out and seeing other houses. Doesn't even have to be your listings. Go to open houses and you suddenly go, okay, they've done a good job here. What are the things they've done? There are just some real basic rules on staging. If you do those 90% of the time, you're good. The other 10% of the time, it's a vacant house, or their furniture's just really not appropriate, or they have empty rooms that are key selling rooms, like the great room, kitchen, master. Those are the 3 key selling rooms. If those can't be made as well as they should be, I do have a stager who'll bring in furniture if we need to and do that. So I don't have to do it often, but I do have Courtney as my person, and she does do it for me when I need that. In this market, no, in this market, not as often. You're right. If I can get it decluttered, I'm probably pretty good. Now, I did go to a house earlier this week, and he's a for sale by owner at $467,000 in West Valley. And the house, there's only one picture on KSL or Zillow, wherever he's got it. And it's of the outside of the house, and which looks fine. And then you walk into their living room and it already begins. There's cases of water. Every square inch of the kitchen counter is covered, so much so that they have designed a drying rack above their sink because there is no reason or way to wash a cup and put it down to dry someplace. And so I did say to him, I said, why are you moving? And he's like, well, I just, if I can get this price. And I said, well, you can't. You just can't. This is not a goal. This is not even a dream. You're living in a fairy tale. So if you are unwilling to make this look good, then, this is not going to happen. He said, well, we can stay here. And I said, okay, that's exactly what's going to happen. You get to stay here, and that's okay. But, it's, the motivation, I can't create their own motivation. They have to have their motivation there or not. Yes. Okay.
So I came from the new construction world.
So staging and model home and how it should look.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. You're the guy that I say, go look at a model home.
Yeah.
That's how it's got to look.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And so my wife's coming from the side where she has no construction experience, but she's just doing so well. She can be a listing agent. She can be buying agents. Still learning. She'll be here just a little bit.
Good. Good. Good.
into the business, did you ever feel like people talk about imposter syndrome? You know, in terms of being somebody who you're not, being somebody who you're not. So
No.
did you ever come into this going, I have to be somebody I'm not?
Well, when I was 19, I used to go to the beauty parlor and get my hair done once a week, so I looked older because my average client age was 53. So I guess that would be the imposter. But I'm really, really fortunate. My parents really raised all 5 of us kids to think we were going to be a success at any and everything we did. And so lack of confidence is not something I've suffered with. And I do give my parents all the credit in the world for that. So no, but I do think there's a reason why they say fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
But I think there are smart ways to fake it. So for example, going out on a listing presentation without having done it 20 times in a practice session, that's a $20,000 error.
Yeah, right.
Tyler gave his for the 20th time yesterday to Nick and I right before the class. And I happened to be walking through the cafe and I saw him doing that. And I said, how's he doing? And he said, good. And I kept on going. Well, I came back right before the class started and I went over to Nick and I said, so would you have listed your house with him? And he said, if I wasn't available, because Nick's an agent, if I wasn't available, I would have. And I said, anything he needs or anything he did really well. And he said, he covers it all really thoroughly. And I said, anything he needs to improve upon. And he said, probably just a little bit more confidence. And part of that confidence comes from 2 things, the practice sessions and the actual going and doing it. So I think you can take some steps so that you don't go through imposter syndrome to the degree a lot of people choose to go. But every time you choose to go without having practiced, it's an expensive session.
Well, like I said, so I have so much confidence in my abilities in that new construction world. The crossing over to resell, it
should be easy.
It should be easy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so just mentally, I've got to get there, and I've got to do it on my own. A better path, so to speak, right? I can't let her. I can't let myself think, well, I'll just let her do it. She's so good at it.
Right.
So
yeah, so you both need to get strong at this. So the other thing that like this week when I went out and signed the one that just came from asking the questions and walking through the house. And then he was like, I think we should just do this. And I said, you sure? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, I'll email, the marketing. I think he had the marketing thing. Anyways, I had a shadow on that one and it's not uncommon for me to have a shadow on my appointments. And shadow's just another agent who's trying to learn how to do this. And the rule is they can't say a word. They are truly a shadow. But some of the best agents in our Sugar House office have shadowed me on appointments. And so one of the things you may want to think about doing is going to some of your top producers and saying, if I text you every day, just as a reminder, because we don't think about hollering at you guys, could I come and shadow you on a listing presentation? And I don't think most people mind that at all. Now I had a second person want to come that day and I said, no, 3 against 1 is intimidating, even if they're silent. I'll only take 1 shadow at a time. But I would suggest you go and shadow. Yeah. Well, I know I introduced them. They're new on the team. They're new to our office. And so they just wanted to come out and see how this is done. I mean, it makes you look like the expert if you've got the shadow here. So I look like the old person that everybody wants to be like. And I think everybody respects the new people that are taking the time to do that. So that may be a way to see it actually done and go, oh yeah, that's just like when I did the other, that's just like, yeah. The nice thing is having come from new construction is the people skill part of it. you know, the building of, you get a short period of time in a new construction situation to bond with the people. And that's really all we're doing early on is that.
Well, and what I loved about this process so
Mhm.
far is your presentation is so like bam, 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 5
Yeah,
steps.
yeah.
It's very similar to, so I worked for Woodside Homes
Yeah,
for 5 years.
yeah, I know what's
And
that.
for anybody that I closed, you know, there were probably 4 or 5 people that I didn't. So
Right.
I was just practicing.
Right.
That 20 amount that you
Right.
require as a minimum,
Right.
you get that in almost a day.
Yeah.
You know, doing a presentation.
Right.
And so now it's a little bit, it's intimidating because it's on the other side. I'm on the resale side.
It's a little different, but
Contracts.
yeah, a little different, but, and so today we'll go back to what we're doing today. So today we're actually doing session 3, which is the objection handling. And which is why I wanted to make sure we had it recorded for Bart. And even though he doesn't deserve it because he's not here. And I'm hoping he got that on the recording. And then we're going to go through, I'm going to a listing presentation when I leave here. So I brought the paperwork. And so we're just going to go through the paperwork. I co-listed a house that we closed last week with one of the new agents in my office after our first session. He's not a new agent. He moved from Keller Williams in Atlanta to here. But how they do it in Atlanta is different than how they do it here. And so he said, would you mind co-listing one with me, which I normally never do, but I said, yes, as long as he's vested in coming to classes, yes, I will. And so when we left the presentation, and I had just given my presentation, so it must have been after session 2, I said, isn't that exactly what we just did in the kitchen? And he said, yes, but he said, you know what the amazing part was? When you presented that paperwork. And it never dawned on me that that might be the amazing part. Because no, it doesn't, because that's just easy for me. I'm going to suggest that you move forward in the class as much as possible, because when we get to this part, it's not on the overhead, so I can show you, but it may be harder for you to get a feel for what I'm doing. Okay, so we're going to do today objection handling. So I would like to find out from each of you, what objections have you actually had in a presentation? Not the ones that are between your ears that you're worried you might get, but what are the ones you've actually had in recent presentations? Go ahead.
They're concerned about move-out times.
Okay.
Meaning they don't want to sell the house too quickly.
Or they find the house first. Or I call that homeless. Okay. All right. Next.
Yeah, same thing. They don't want to sell the home because they don't know what they're going to put the funds, invest the funds, and they want to have a plan and stuff.
Okay. Is that plan to buy another house, or is that really just an open plan to do whatever?
They just don't want it sitting in their bank account.
Okay.
They want it somewhere else.
I'm going to call that financial investment, and we'll have to remember that that's how that is. Okay. Tell you the one I got the other day is I in this market, I think we could sell it ourselves. Okay. Okay, I saw a hand going up.
Yeah, they don't want to move twice. They don't want to go into a rental situation.
I think that'll fall in the timing. Okay, so I think we'll cover.
Discount broker.
Okay, would that be, you mean a limited service?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, these guys can do it for 1,000.
Yeah. So first of all, I want all of you to stop using the word discount broker. How many of you are members of Costco? Thank you. We all think discounts are good. Limited service. Okay. Okay, what else? Okay. Anything else? Okay, we can add to this as we go through it if you think of any others that we should add. But if not, let's pull this over here, because it looks like maybe there's a camera on. And then the people on the screen can see what we're talking about. Does that work? I think it works. Okay. All right. So, timing to move, find the right house, worry about being homeless. Okay. So, Brett, it sounds to me like when you say you want to find a new home first, that you may be concerned about being homeless. Is that correct? Like being without a home?
Yeah, I'm just not super confident that I'll be able to find a right.
Okay. Okay. Oh, sorry, Jake. Brett's over here. Sorry, B's and J's. I'm trying to remember. Ben over there. Okay, BBJ. BBJ, similar to peanut butter and jelly. Got it. Okay, so why don't you give me the objection that you heard that has to do with that? Just pretend you're the seller and go ahead and say it to me. Either one.
I'll say it.
Okay.
Yeah, so doing the first one.
Doing the first one.
So, I heard that the rental market is really tight right now, and I'm really concerned about selling right now and not having a place to go to, or not even having a rental to go to.
Okay. So it sounds to me like you don't want to be homeless. Okay, I don't blame you. In 49 years, I've never had a client go homeless. So I've kind of got a streak going here that my goal is to never let you be homeless. Okay. So I think we've got a couple of options. One in particular in this market that I'm seeing a lot. So I closed one last week, and they can't move into their new house until August 4th. So we just, so that gave them really 90 days. So we just put that on the MLS and said, offers are going to have to be subject to us closing earlier, but not moving in until August 4th. I had 7 offers on that house. 6 of the 7 were willing to let my clients stay till August 4th. 0 rent back. So they got almost 90 days free. And then my sellers already closed on the house. So now they've got all the cash. So now they become a cash buyer. So that's a really great way to go right now. And if somebody's not willing to work with you, you just don't take their offer. We counter them to get that. And the reason I like that way best is a few things. One, it means you go driveway to driveway. Moving is not fun, Ben. And so if we can just do it one time, that's kind of nice. But more importantly than even that is the fact that that would put you in the position to pretty much be a cash type buyer. You're not subject to the sale of a home. Your cash is already in your bank account. We can verify that. So it puts you into a position of power when you're competing for an offer. And unfortunately, anytime you write an offer to buy right now, you're in a competition. And you will never be the one accepted if you are subject to the sale of your home. So the reality is, it used to be we could do that, and we can't anymore. So right now, we've got to get your home at least under contract with a set closing date in order to be able to garner you any attention to win. Okay? But I think we can accomplish that driveway to driveway by doing it that way. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's insane, but if it works.
It really works right now. It really works right now. Okay? All right. That take care of that one? Okay. Who gave me the next one? Okay. Tell me your name. Travis. So Travis, pretend you're the seller. And let's talk about this one. Say it how he said it.
So we are looking to sell, but I don't think my wife and I want to make a move until we know
where we would invest that money that would be making on.
Okay. So, Travis, where are you going to move to when you sell this one?
So, backstory. He's renting out the house right now, and he's doing a PhD program in Europe. So
Okay.
it's about 3 years till he moves back to the States.
Okay, so he's living in Europe now, so we're not living in the house. The house right now is just a rental for us. Okay, and boy, I can understand your concern to do that. If it had been last week, I'd say invest the money in Bitcoin. But I'd say after this week, maybe the Bitcoin thing's probably not the way to go. The reality is, yes, you're gonna have to figure out where to put the money. You're a smart person. I'm betting that you can put the money in a place other than the bank, which is not where I'd recommend it because they're going to pay you nothing for that. Even if you go to American Express high yield account, you're still only going to get 0.05. So not very much there either. Stock market may be another place that you want to go. But I guess my concern is more the 3-year period. So right now the market is ungodly. It is unlike a market I've seen in my entire 49 years. Do I think it's going to last 3 years till you get done in Europe? I wouldn't even bet you a Diet Coke on it, much less put money down. So I think you've got to judge, do you want to take it out when you know you're going to have your very highest? Or are you willing to take the risk to say, what if it falls off? And between now and 3 years from now, I think the odds are very much in that favor. So maybe you won't get, for example, the guys who had Bitcoin last week, they were all touting, oh my gosh, I turned my, what was the subsidy that the government sent them? You know, the $1,200, whatever that was called. They turned that into 50,000 by just throwing that money into Bitcoin. But this week, that's not 50,000. This week, that's not 25,000. So at some point, you have to assess the risk of, should I take it, hold it, do some research to see where it should go next? Or do I hold on to it and hope in 3 years that we're still doing great? And that's only something you could decide. That's not really an objection, that's a condition. If this is conditioned on your income. Now, the other thing I would say to you is this rental is producing a monthly income to you. That's a substantially great investment. If you're getting a monthly, not just are you getting equity gain, but you're getting a return every single month. My question to you is, do you just keep the one, or maybe we sell that one and we buy more than one? Just so I'm getting a return every single month now on 2 instead of 1. 2 doors is better than 1. 4 doors might be better than 2.
Like that, because now what you've done is you're starting to speak very different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you're starting talking in terms of, and just the fact that you're talking Bitcoin, that's actually a more risky proposition than real estate is, because with 3 classes, stocks, bonds, real estate is
More secure.
way more
Yeah.
secure, so risk.
Yeah.
So I brought up to him that he's very wishy-washy right now. He's very safe with his money.
Mm-hmm.
I brought up to him, sell it. You're not here, so you can do a 1031 exchange, put it into another property.
2 or 4 more properties.
Yeah, okay, 2 or 4 more properties.
Yeah.
I should sell it that.
You really should.
And then I said, you can either cash out refinance or HELOC to avoid capital gains, but he occupied it 2 of the last 5 years.
Right.
So he's fine.
Yeah.
So,
Which, by the way, 3 years from now, will he be able to answer that question the same?
No.
Right. So that's the other thing that he needs to consider is the capital gains, which would be 15 to 18%. that he's not gonna have to pay in taxes if he does it now versus he will have to pay it in 3 years.
And so that's where we left off, was he's like, oh, those are great strategies. And now when I call him, he's like, I'm on board, my wife's not. And so now I guess what I need to say is, well, what is it? What's bothering your wife about this? Like, 'cause she just wants to hold on to it, I think.
Okay.
And so I don't know how to tackle.
Okay. So I would tackle that with, first and foremost, you're gonna take a 15 to 18% hit on capital gains if you go beyond that 2 to 5 year, owned to 2 of the last 5 years. When is that date that will expire?
I want to say sometime this year or next year.
Okay, so you should find that out, because that's going to matter to him. He'll understand that a lot. But secondly, I do think that the real estate is a good investment, not just because of the equity gain, but because it pays you income every single month. So the rate of return is really nice. Excuse me. But I really think he's only got one. Why not take the gain he's made and turn that 1 into 2 to 4? If he could find a duplex, a fourplex, 2 units, 4 units, that would be better return. So now he's probably making X number of dollars. Let's say he's making $1,000 a month. If he could take that and now make $2,000 or $4,000 a month, now you've answered his question about what do I do with the money?
Right. So I guess next time I call him, I can say, hey, Taylor, how would you like to, double, triple budget with your money?
I would call Taylor and say, Taylor, how much income do you receive a month? Your net after expenses. What's your net a month that you're making on this unit? Okay, whatever it is. And then I would say, and when does your 2 of the last 5 years end for the capital gains? What's the date for that? When did you last live in the house? Okay, because it can't go beyond that 5 years. Yeah, you should be just recording, or they're recording this. You could listen to it. So don't worry about notes. So that's a hard deadline that he needs to make sure he's staying on top of. But why don't we, instead of receiving $500 a month or $1,000 a month, how would you and your wife feel about having investments that paid you double that or quadruple that? Well, that one he's got to listen to. And I think we take the equity gain we've got here while we save yourself on the short-term capital gains tax. We do it as a 1031, but short-term capital gains tax, and now we go and multiply that. Get 2 units, get 4 units. And it may be that you have to find that and make it, we can't put this on the market till he's identified that one type of thing. But nonetheless, I think that gives you both hard deadlines. And if he's all about the finances, that's going to make a lot of sense. Okay. All right. Who did these? Sell it myself. I did. Oh, I did the sell it myself. Oh, so the guys I closed, one of the guys I closed last week, Clayton and Denise, at the table, when I first met with them, and I didn't know these people, Clayton said to me, well, I think in this market, I could probably sell it myself. And I said, oh, Clayton, you could just put a sign out front and I promise you'll get an offer. However, you had said to me, your biggest concern was getting best price possible. Is that correct? And he said, yeah. And I said, then that's not it. Best price possible will be what I get you, not what you could get. Because you can get one offer. And then you have to accept it, decline it, or reject it. You can't get multiple offers, not when you're doing it on your own. And I said, I believe I can net you more money than you can net you if you do it yourself. And the nice thing is on my listing, and you'll see when I present this, I have a cancellation clause. So why don't we do the grand opening? Why don't we see if I can't do exactly what I said? And if I can't, you don't have to accept any of the offers. I mean, it's a no risk situation. So he said, okay, that makes sense. So we put it on the market. It was a $1.2 million house. And we had 7 offers. And this is the one I was telling you about where 6 of the 7 would let him stay till August 4th. I sold it for $1,475,000. which is more than he could have sold it for if he put up a sign in his yard. And believe me, if I have any of my clients call him, he will tell him that. So, and I think that's important to know. And I have gotten that, and it's not stopped me from listing it with anybody. So it's not been a problem. But I've gotten people saying that fairly often. I think in this market, I could probably stop myself. I think a lot of agents, when they're said that, when a client says that to you, your immediate response is to get defensive. Please note, I'm not defensive. Then, yeah, I think you could sell it yourself. I think if you put a sign up, you can get an offer. However, what you said to me in the questions was your most important thing was best price possible. So if that's what you're looking for, I can beat what you're going to get an offer for. And I'm happy to prove it to you by going through the grand opening. You don't have to accept any offer you don't want to accept. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Limited service company, yes.
Yeah. And it's been on the market for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
3 weeks. And after it has been listed for 2 weeks, they dropped the price to 10,000.
Yeah.
And I thought, in this market, and the thing is that this neighbor 2 doors down, very similar square footage wise and the property size, all that. They sold their home in 3 or 4 days with the normal agent, and they got 40,000 under ask.
Yeah. Full service versus limited service is a money changer. You all remember not last month, the first month I was there. I was telling the story about a house in my neighborhood. Not one of my listings, but she had it listed with a limited service company that you're all familiar with. And they were asking $499,900. And I happened to go over to that neighbor's house after it went under contract about some cement, because I'm in charge of cement in my neighborhood, in my HOA. And she had a little repair I needed to take care of. And I said, I see your house went under contract. She said, oh yeah, no problem. I said, you get full price? And she said, that's exactly what we got, $499,900. And I went, oh. She looked at me. And she said, what did that other one sell for? Because there was another one the same week on the market with a full service company. Now, hers at $499,900 was fully remodeled. The other one was not. The other one sold for $595,500. So by stepping over dollars to pick up nickels, Kimberly lost $95,000. Now, it was interesting when I told that story, your agent, Sally, she and her husband are in your office, spouted out and said that my grandmother bought the one at $595, Lee, in your neighborhood, $595,500. And she continued the story. She said, we wanted to buy Kimberly's, but the minute they got an offer, their limited service agent refused any other showings or any other offers. So it was a $95,500 oops. So having a story like your neighbor, having a story like my neighbor, these are really important ones to have in a situation where what's the difference between limited service and full service. One of the things I loved in your group, Sherry Booth was in last month, and we were going through everybody's presentations. And in Sherry's listing presentation, she has a little subsection on limited service companies where she's actually made Xerox copies of some of their listings and highlighted all of the errors. In our office this week in Sugar House, we had one of our agents write an offer on a limited service company that you all know. And they gave us a counter back to that agent. And the agent with the limited service company put the wrong number in it. And so the Keller agent called them and said, are you sure about your counter price? And she said, yeah, I'm sure. And okay. And then she called her one more time and said, are you sure on this addendum that that's what you wanted to say? And she said, oh yeah, I'm sure. So the buyers accepted it. Instead of 460, or I'm sorry, instead of 650, it was 560. So needless to say, our broker has worked it out. That agent is no longer working at that limited service company. But the buyers of this house are not getting it at 560, just so you know, as our broker explained to our buyers who thought, wow, this is a gift from God. He said, God won't hold up in court. So that's not really going to work, but we probably can make it better than it should have been. So they're actually getting it for like an extra 20,000 or 20,000 cash written by the limited service company, just a check written out to them. But it's the lack of care that can happen. For me and Kimberly's, I didn't know until Sally spoke up that they refused to look at their offer because they already had one. Well, you think about when you have a limited service company, they're basically getting a flat fee. They want it off their plate as quickly as possible to go on to their next deal. It matters not to them whether they get a high price, a low price, a medium price. You have to talk louder so that they maybe can hear you on the recording.
I submitted an offer for buyers of 9 a week ago, maybe, and it was to a limited service. That was on a townhome, and we ended up getting it for 50,000, which is not common.
No, indeed, it's not common.
No, and my buyers are like ecstatic.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my gosh, we got a home for under asking. That's so awesome.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's a miracle. That's a miracle. So truthfully, if they say, I think we could sell it ourselves, please don't get defensive. Just simply, in this market, I think you could put up a sign. I think you can get an offer. But that's why we ask those questions in the beginning, right? Because now we can say back to them, but you had said to me, the most important thing was best price possible, most money in your pocket, right? That's not what's going to happen if you put a sign up in the front. There are so many great stories. I mean, literally, the story I'm telling you is in the last 7 days. They're happening all the time. Okay. All right. Next one. We kind of just talked about the limited service, but let's continue on with the limited service companies. So again, my belief is that if we're looking for top dollar, Travis, that you will not, the limited service company will have no problem whatsoever getting your house sold. They won't. And they're going to take a flat fee for it. And certainly they know their value better than I know their value. Okay, and if they're charging you $1,000, that's probably what they're worth. But here's your challenge. They're not vested in whether you're getting the highest price because they get how much if they sell it? Yeah, but if I sell it for less, what do I still get? $1,000. If I sold it for more, would I get that same amount? Yeah, but here's the truth. Your first offer is your lowest offer. Doesn't matter who's got the listing. Doesn't matter if you list it or sell it yourself. Your first offer is always going to be your lowest offer. But they only get the one offer. Their marketing is not designed to create a feeding frenzy and a bidding war. They're designed to get their $1,000 and get you off the table and go to, they're into the quality or quantity of the 1,000. That's all they care about.
to the limited service, do you pay upfront before we sell the house, the $1,000?
I have no idea. Anybody know if they pay up front or if they just pay it?
They used to require that. I don't know anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
So
But,
why,
but truly, it's like with Kimberly's house in my neighborhood. They got one offer. They refused to let them bring their offer in. Refused to let them bring their offer in. Called and canceled all other showings and took it off the market. Not looking for a backup. They just said it's under contract, done.
Well, a similar thing happened to me with the limited service. Like, I had a client, saw it in the morning, was active, they had just fallen out of contract. We said, okay, we want to come see it. We had an appointment set up. And in the meantime, in like 5 hours, they got an offer. They accepted the offer before we even showed up. And we ended up writing a backup offer anyway. And the people in front of us canceled. And without even putting it back on the market, they knew, she just called me and said, hey, you have the backup offer, do you want it? And in this market, we got it at list price. And it's in South Jordan.
I'll tell you, my buyer's agents love the limited service companies. They set up alerts so that anytime they list something, they see what it is because it's normally underpriced. For their buyer's perspective, it's a jewel, but you're the seller, Travis. So stop stepping over dollars to pick up nickels. You want best price possible, most money in your pocket, right? Yeah, you need the marketing to create a feeding frenzy, wouldn't you agree? Yeah, bidding war, what you prefer? Okay, then let's do that. All right, it's that. I have fairly often. Okay. Buying in an inflated market. Who is that? Okay. So, so let me ask you a question. What I'm hearing you say is that you're nervous that you'd be overpaying. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I have quite a bit of equity, but I still don't know if that $100,000 is gonna pay down whatever house I find in that.
So, Brett, right? Jake. Still doing the bees. Sorry about that. So Jake, if let's play just pretend for a minute. If you were going to sell this house, would you go to a bigger house or a smaller house? A bigger house. Okay. And I assumed with your age, that'd be the case. You're my age, it's probably a smaller house. So if you're my age and you're going to a smaller house, here's my house, and let's say it's going to go up another 12% to here. But this little one goes up 12%. I'm ahead by keeping in my big house, right? Just the opposite is true for you. You're in a house that would sell for, you know, let's say 450, 500,000. So let's use 500 because I'm bad at math. Let's say it goes up another 10% just because I'm bad at math would be 50,000, right? But the house you're going to look to buy is going to be bigger. So, well, let's say it's going to be 700,000. So that one goes up 10%, it's 70,000. You got 50, you're paying 70,000 more. It doesn't matter as that market goes. If you're going upward, it's costing you money to wait. Now, I think the better question might also be, or the secondary question to that one is this. Do I think that in a year, everything's going to tank? And then you feel like you're stuck holding the bag. Is that a concern when you say inflated? And I have to tell you that I don't think that's going to be the case, because this time around, our challenge is in a lack of inventory. So this is not like the market was in 2007, where exactly that happened and things went down. So for you, from a financial well-being point of view, because you're going to a bigger house, boy, howdy, I'd be doing it.
I mean, it's interesting to even with the interest rates are doing for us right now, right? So
Exactly.
even if the prices did dip, it's not gonna make as much of a difference as what the interest rates doing for us right now.
exactly, yeah.
I did that comparison with the close yesterday, it's at 5.7. 3% interest rate we have. Compare that to a 4.5, it's $200,000 difference in purchase price. Now, if you think that your house is going to dip $200,000, I
No.
don't think so.
Right. So explaining it by interest rate is another great way to do it. Now, I do think the challenge is really the people like my age who are going to move downward. Well, one, that they maybe shouldn't move. They maybe do need to stay there. And if they can, that is fine. Cannot stay there because of health issues or whatever, then really let's sell it while it's at the top. Okay.
Well, and there might be enough equity in their big home and they could cash out, buy something cash. and have
Most
money
of them are.
pay
No, most of them
to
are
have
paying
maybe
cash.
that extra, if they're on a fixed income, they
Yeah.
might have extra money.
Yeah.
They could do.
Right. Yeah. Most of them are at the point where they're cashing out when they become my age and they're downsizing. Yeah. So again, sometimes they're objections, sometimes they're conditions, but for most of the clients, especially in Utah County, because you have a very young population, you're probably the youngest population in a county in Utah. Most of your people are moving up.
One thing I love Cody Gibson said to us was, well, you let the overinflated prices buy you through the convenience. I think that's a really great point.
Well, it is. It's funny, for those of us who are parents, or have been, yeah, our parents, you know, when our kids are little, it's not a big deal, but your kids get to be about 10 or 11, suddenly they're like the space of an adult human being. And so there's this critical time where we're fine. Oh my gosh, it's too small. And it really happens that fast, just like in the townhomes. On anybody on a townhome, we're fine. We've got a cute little baby, toddler. We get pregnant with the second. Oh my gosh, there's no room. That's a critical time on a townhouse. And then there's a critical age where suddenly they're not kids, they're suddenly human beings. Yeah. So I went with an adult, you know, a family of 2 and 2 kids, and then suddenly there's 4 human beings in the house and they just take up more space.
It says, once you reach that stage, it's like drowning in water already and someone hands you a baby.
Yes.
What are you supposed to do with it?
Yes, I think that's very true. So I think that interest rates definitely are one of those things. By the way, I want to tell you a true story. This week I sold a house to one of my clients, and normally I don't work with buyers, but this is a good friend of mine, so I took her on, and I'd actually sold her a lot last November or December. She was going to build a house and got through all of her architectural stuff, went and had it bidded out and went, whoa, on the cost of construction. Okay. And we'll cover that one in a second. But anyways, so she called me up and said, Lee, I don't think I can afford to build. And I said, well, I think it'd be smart not to. She's about 5 years younger than me. She plans on working for about 5 years more. And then she wants to be able to go to Italy and live in Italy half the years. And so having a multi-million-dollar house doesn't make a lot of sense for somebody who's going to be there 5 years. So anyways, we started looking for a new house. We found a new house. We got our offer accepted. Hallelujah. And we called Keller Mortgage. That's who I had her going through on this one. She's very tech savvy. And so going through Keller Mortgage made it easy. Well, the agent, we were competing, as we are on everything these days, and we were the successful bidder on the house. And the agent made a point of saying to me, Lee, I got to tell you, I had sent him the pre-approval from Keller Mortgage. I'd also sent her proof of funds for all of her big down payment stuff. But he said, talking to your Keller Mortgage agent, he was amazing as far as he sold that agent on my client. So I immediately went in and did a 5-star Google review for him and Keller Mortgage. But here's the other part I wanted to tell you. So we get notice that late that next day that we got the offer. If we want it, here's the price we've got to pay for it. And we're going to pay that for that. And it's now 5:30 at night and I have Chris, my friend, on the phone, and I said, let's call Sebastian and let's find out what your payment's gonna be, what the down payment we should do is that, and what our interest rate would be. So we call him at 5:30 at night. Now, I've done other deals with Sebastian. I don't know where Sebastian lives. I'm assuming the odds are probably greater he's east of me than west of me. So it's 5:30 my time, and he's picking up the phone. And I'm like, okay, kudos, like that. Then we're talking and he's like, I wouldn't put 30% down. I do 20% down. Let's just avoid the mortgage insurance. And then Chris said, will my loan allow me to either have no prepayment penalty or to do a one-time recast? Do y'all know what a one-time recast is? No. So, so she's got another house that I'm going to sell. I've sold her rental already, but we're going to sell this other house, but it's not subject to selling this. So we'll do that afterwards. So she's going to get a huge chunk of change from that. So she's going to have about a $700,000 mortgage right now. If she gets 500,000, she could then recast it down to a $200,000 mortgage at the rate it's at. And it's called a recast. So now they'll re-amortize it. And now the payment goes down to that. So that's a recast. And so we're asking the question, can we do a recast or is there a prepayment penalty? Because she may just choose to pay it off. And he's like, no, but he said, you know what? If you, Chris, are not going to keep this for 3 or 4 or 5 years. And she said, no, I won't keep that mortgage for 3 or 4 or 5 years. She said, I think I'll pay it off within the year. He said, then instead of going at a 3% interest rate, why don't we go at a 3.125% interest rate? Because then I can give you an additional $4,000 towards your closing costs. So instead of getting the $1,000 she normally gets from Keller, she's now going to get a total of $5,000 towards her closing costs, which will pretty much cover her closing costs because they don't charge an origination fee on a $700,000 loan. Minimum that would be $7,000. So they've just saved her $12,000, which would be money she would have pulled out of her pocket. I mean, literally would have had to pull out of her pocket, not amortize into a loan. No, well, Keller Mortgage, sorry, I just had a success on Keller this week that they got the deal because the Keller loan officer sold that listing agent on my buyer, which was fabulous. So Keller always offers any of our clients, they have to be a KW client, $1,000 towards your closing costs and no origination fee. Okay. So in this case, when he heard what we were thinking about doing, he said, he was proactive and said, why don't we instead do this? Let's make your interest rate 3.125, which changed your payment by $54. He said, so really, Chris, you'll pay about $600 a year to get $4,000. Yeah. 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 Right. But I hadn't thought of that. And I love that he was proactive and did think of that. Okay. All right. So I just kind of wanted to share that story. Sebastian. Yeah. Who has been fabulous with all of my clients, including they also right before closing check the interest rates. If they're down, they've dropped them down. They've beat every interest rate I could get locally every time. It's been very interesting. Now, it doesn't work for a lot of my clients. A lot of my clients are my age and older. I mean, like way older, because they've been my clients for like 49 years. And we all got old. So some of them are not real great on the technology end, and I would never send them there. But for my ones who work from home, or in my case, Chris is a medical engineer. She's on computers, gets it all the time, no problem. That's what she does. It was perfect. So just you need to have some of those reserves because there are times that that's important. And right now, for your buyers, not trying to sway you from whoever you're using, because I have an in-town lender that we use for, probably 85% of the stuff we do is Mandy. But for your buyers who are rubbing pennies together, trying to be able to get these offers accepted, no origination fee and $1,000 towards closing costs. If they're buying a $500,000 house, amounts to $5,000 plus $1,000 equals $6,000. That is money that they would have had to pull out of their pocket. Okay, or let's say they have to have more money. Well, isn't it nice to know that instead of doing a 3%, let's do a 3.125%, change our payment by $30 and get $4,000 to cover the rest of my closing costs, because all my cash had to go to paying above appraised value. Okay, so I just want you, when we're trying to come up with money, my very first house, I borrowed my down payment by borrowing against my life insurance policy. Always think outside the box about how your buyers can do this. And the ones I feel the sorriest for are those first-time home buyers. They are struggling to find a way. Our job is to try to help them have every potential option of a way. And that's one of the options that a lot of people just don't even think about. Okay. Won't work for everybody, shouldn't. Will work for some. Make sure you got it in your tool belt. Okay. All right. So Jake, are you okay with how we overcame that one? I think your interest rate was good, but I always want you to compare if they're moving up. Please compare that one, okay, to what they're moving to. Okay. Dean, these were the objections they gave me that they've heard recently on appointments. Any others that you've heard about recently that we need to be covering today?
When I was door knocking there, one lady said, I wish buy the new house just 2 blocks away, but if I saw my house, it's not even close to the price, it's like the same. But I told her, but you have a lot of equity in your house. But she said, oh, I don't know, I don't take very well the objection. So
Okay.
just was door knocking that she said, I want to buy a new house 2 blocks from here, but if I saw my house, is not enough.
Okay. So that's a matter of not on a doorstep. That's going to be a matter of sitting down and saying, let's go in your kitchen and play just pretend for a second. Can we go do that? And take them in the kitchen. And I'd say things like, okay, so in your neighborhood, house about this size, I'm going to guess it without doing any numbers, but I'm going to guess that you're probably about, what do you think price wise?
Like 400.
Okay, let's say 450. Okay, so 450. Do you have a loan on the house anymore?
Yeah,
How much do you owe on it?
maybe 100.
Okay, so even after closing costs and buying a new house, you're going to have about 300,000 in cash. Okay, so the house 2 blocks over, how much are they selling it for?
500.
550. So you're going to have 300,000 to put down on that 550. So that would mean you'd be getting a loan of 250,000. Let's figure out what the payment would be on 250,000. Do all of you have an amortization schedule on your phones? Okay, great. So let's calculate that one real quick. $250,000 mortgage at 3%. Okay, that was what Mandy said it was earlier this week. On a 30-year mortgage. Hold that thought for just a second. And let's see what that comes up with. By the way, how much is your current payment on your 100,000?
Like 2,500.
About $150. How much would that be?
54 a day.
Okay, so $1,054 a month, which would be way cheaper than rent. Okay, and you'd now have a brand new house with everything you want. So for $1,054 a month, would you like to consider buying a new house? Okay, so I think you can't, some things you can't do on the fly, meaning at the door knocking, you need to invite yourself in. And you do it playing just pretend. There's, we're not committing to do anything. We're just going to explore. So people are always willing to play just pretend.
So after they do consider, like, the kitchen counter,
Right.
what do you do from there?
Okay, so you would consider a new house at 1,054.
So that would be like that, yeah.
Okay, well, then I think first things first. Okay, first I need to go back and double check that 450 is what you can get for your house. I think it actually might be more than that. And secondly, I want to run by that house and find out, is it still available? Okay, so when is the time we could sit down? Would tonight be okay?
Yeah,
Okay, 6 o'clock work for you?
wow. It could be 7, because my husband coming late,
Okay, and I want him here.
yeah.
Okay, so let's do 7 o'clock tonight. That should give me enough time to get the numbers for this and check on that. Okay?
Yeah.
Perfect.
I find that this mountain that I need to overcome, it's not that difficult to tell people just go back to the house.
Yeah.
Because for me, that'd be a big deal. Someone knocks on my door, convinces me to go back to the house. I think that's crazy.
So Jake, I want you to rephrase how you think about it, because I think that's where you're having the problem.
I have a great conviction right now for finding fire. It's great.
Mhm.
But I haven't invested the mindset around it.
Right. So here's the thing I want you to have. I want you to be the king of making people's dreams come true. Okay?
Kind of put them in that situation. How would it feel for you to be able to have that extra house?
Right.
with the same thing?
Well, she told you what her dream was.
Yeah.
Why would you not help her make her dreams come true? Now, maybe it wouldn't be possible. Maybe she owed 400 for it and it's worth 450 and she can't do it. But I'm curious enough about what it would take to see if it's doable for her to have her dreams. And I'm doing that not out of judgment as an investor, but as a dream maker.
And you never know what is going on in their life
Nope.
when you knock the door. Maybe they, like she said, maybe, they have little kids and now they're getting to be big humans and they're like, I'm sick of my house. You don't know what's going on background. So maybe it's an opportunity to help them find that next dream.
Yeah, remember my statement is my goal is to help enough people get what they want, then I'll always get what I want. So just go and help enough people. Yes, Ben.
And with people that have a certain amount of dissatisfaction for a certain amount of time, that's what gets them up on the
Mhm.
fence and looking for a new direction.
Right. Well, and
yeah.
they're not investors, Ben, like you. So in her mind, she's probably, Jake, she's probably thinking it would cost way too much money. I can't afford it.
There's a mountain in their mind that we need to help.
Exactly, help them traverse. And if you're just curious and you're a dream maker, then it's really cool and easy to have these conversations. So stay out of judgment and in curiosity, and you'll be amazed at what you discover. Yes. Tell me your name again.
Rich.
Thank you, Rich.
My renters are moving out in a couple of months. That's about a 600.
Mhm.
And I figure I might as well give it to my business officially.
Right.
So I figure I might as well sell it. There's good time. Well, yeah, he said, let me just wait. I just kept in contact. Probably 4 times. So, what do you think? You still want to list your home? Yeah, I want to sit down and run some numbers. Just look things over, but he owns his own business. Okay, I promise. That's pretty much what I get every time. Like I saw him at the gym today. And said, hey, I'm not ignoring you. I promise. He said, I just,
And he's probably not, but there's not a damn thing you've said, Rich, that compels me to need to meet with you right now. Okay, so let's talk about what maybe you could be saying to do that, okay? What maybe you could be saying is, you know what, I've run the numbers. I haven't been inside the house, but now that the tenants are gone, can I borrow a key from you? And I'm gonna go through it, make sure I've got the right numbers, get those for you. And then honestly, let's one morning before you go into the office, I'll buy a bagel and let's go through these numbers, because I know you have to have the numbers before you can make a decision. Tenants have moved out, so getting a key to go in and take a peek at it. Yeah, by the way, do you want me when I'm in there to also, Rich, maybe take a look and see if there's anything that needs to be done before we go on the market? I got a fat Rolodex if we need some help in getting that kind of stuff done.
well, he did say that
Okay.
which really this market is not.
And it may be that you don't, but it may be if they're purple striped, that he'd make more money if he did paint them. But again, you haven't been in the house and the tenants are gone. So my question to you is, why haven't you asked for a key to go take a peek? So that you can run the numbers, because he's a businessman and the numbers matter to him. And he's told you that, but you've not responded with how you could help fix that problem. Okay? So I want you to be relevant and compelling. There are some reasons he needs you. Tell him what those reasons are that he needs you. Okay? Numbers are one of them. And then taking a look to see, is there anything that needs to be done before we go on the market? And by the way, we could look at it as is and as done. We could look at it two different ways, couldn't we? That might be an option that he would find valuable. Okay. All right. Any others that anybody's thought of? Is that all of them?
Well, we have someone who they were looking to buy, they have a house to sell. Then they wanted to buy, but now they're worried, they kind of backed off because they're worried about being outpriced with their buy. Even though they're gonna get about $100,000 equity from their sale, they're just worried because the number of, I think they owe, or we could sell it about 500. And they're, I think that in their minds, going up to 600 or 650 for a bigger house is like too much for them. And, you know, I talked to him about, well, let's run the numbers. You know, have you talked to a lender yet to see where you would be with this down payment? With this, it might be less than what you're at because they're at like a 4.5% interest rate right now. So even if they came down like and went up, they would still be saving money. But it's like I don't know that he's gone to that. He won't go to the next step to like actually talking to a professional who can give him the right numbers to know if he's.
So I think you are that person. I don't think you have to send him someplace for that.
Well, like, I mean, his loan numbers, his finance numbers. I don't know what his credit is. So.
Okay. So right now, we're playing just pretend anyways.
Right, yeah.
Okay. So right now, he's got a mountain that he thinks he can't do.
Right,
So you need to help him traverse this. Now that's a separate one than do I qualify?
right.
So my first thought is, why don't we do this? I don't mind. I'm going to run the numbers on your house. So we know what kind of money you'd get for that. And your loan balance is how much again?
360.
Okay, so 360. So then we'll know how much we've got to put down. And then what's your interest rate on your loan right now? 4.5. Okay, great. Thank you. So I'm going to do a comparison for you. And then I'm going to go out and look at some houses based on what you're telling me you want in that 650-ish price range. Maybe it'll be more than that. Maybe it'll be less at today's rates. And when I've got those numbers together, I'd like to come over maybe on a Saturday morning, bring donuts for the family. Let's go through these numbers. Then you're comparing apples to apples. Right now, you have you're just imagining what it might be.
Right.
I don't think you can make a decision forward or staying where you're at without knowing the numbers. Do you? Okay, so I'll do that. I don't mind. Saturday, okay? 8 or 9? 9, perfect. How many donuts?
A dozen.
Dozen.
Lehigh Bakery.
Lehigh Bakery, there we go. Perfect, perfect. Okay, so they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
And,
I run the numbers for him so he can see what his net is.
right. But he doesn't know how that compares to the other. And so her finding out that it only costs $1,003.
Without the amortization project.
Yes. And so some people are real black and white kind of people. And I do think that for anybody to make any kind of decision when it comes to sale of a house, numbers become the main deal. And they keep hearing on the news about prices going up, which means in their mind, I can't afford them. The payments are too high. I better stay here.
Definitely.
They're tied to those stories. And so we need to give them the reality check. That's part of our job.
So I just ran the numbers on this current scenario.
Right.
They would go from $360,000, what they owe, to then getting $100,000 if they end up selling at 500.
All I care about is what would the payment be.
And so the payment would go from 1824 up to 2108.
So for $300 more a month, does it make sense to go ahead and get to a larger house that will serve your family for the next 10 years at $300 a month? And if they say it does, then we need to just have the lender meet with them and make sure that it's all qualified before they move forward and do anything else. Let's verify that we won't have any problems with that end. I'm not worried about it, but I know the buyers and sellers will be. So we might as well take care of step number 2 before we do anything else.
Right.
Okay? Really, $300, guys.
I want you guys to notice what Lee said. She said it about 4 different times. Probably didn't catch it because it's so subtle. Let's do this. I don't mind.
Yeah.
Because Floyd Whitman,
Mhm.
awesome stuff. But we say that because what you're saying is, I'm going to take some action. I'm going to do something. I don't mind.
Yeah.
I'll do that to get you on your way.
Right.
And give you a boost. And
It's
such
like it's a
subtle-
favor.
Yeah.
Yeah, doing them a
Because a
favor.
lot of people do feel like you're putting, like they're putting you out.
Yep.
And it's like, no, this is what I do. I like to do this.
Yeah.
Right. But if you say, I don't
I
mind.
don't
All of
mind.
a sudden, it's amazing. Add that to your vocabulary.
Mhm.
It's not even a tie down, but it's just one of those little subtle things, and you don't even think about it.
But I say it all the time.
Oh, the mattress store I was talking to yesterday. Like, I wonder what I can get in my house. I'm like, I'd rather put numbers together for you. It's like, I don't know. It's like, they're buying it.
Yeah,
They
Yeah.
find value. They find value with it. Like, oh, I'm not gonna do that, but let's go for it.
Yeah.
And you know what? I don't mind. I would love to go
Yeah.
over some numbers.
Yep.
You know, what type better for you?
Yeah.
Just
It's a relationship builder, guys. It's a relationship builder. And I do say it a lot.
Did you use your favorite secret? I've stolen this from Lee and it works so well.
Which
I
one?
love it. You walk and sit down, let's go play pretend in your kitchen.
Yeah.
Then you go in there, you didn't ask her for a glass of water.
Oh, and I normally do.
She does.
Yeah,
Now
always.
write down, explain why you asked for a glass of water.
Because when I go into somebody's house and I ask for a glass of water, they treat me like a guest. That's when you get a glass of water for somebody, you're a guest in their home. It's a different mindset than being the salesperson in their home. So I always ask for a glass of water. Okay. Just psychologically puts them at ease. You know, the thing you've got to remember, guys, is you have to make people comfortable. They can't make a decision if they're not comfortable. And I'm not trying to force them to make any decision. The guy the other day where I said, I think you should just stay in your home. I'm serious about that. I have no qualms with that. Okay. So I'm not here to try to get somebody to do something they don't want to do. My job is to make people's dreams come true. If that's not their dream, then we're not going to do it. But I'm smart enough to know that nobody makes any decision without being comfortable. And for most people, they can't be comfortable without the numbers.
Right.
But there's a comfort level, a feeling secure level that has to happen. And part of that is they're feeling comfortable with you. Rich, I would guess your guy's feeling comfortable with you. He keeps coming to you and assuring you, I want you to bring more value than what you're bringing to him right now. That's what I'm saying to you. And the same thing with the people at the door, and bring value to them. And that will help them feel more comfortable. Yeah, I would do a CMA for him and see what he could sell the house for. I think that's the first number. The second thing I would do is I'd be making a list of, are there things that should be done that really could affect him getting top dollar? Because in this market, he can get it sold. But if he turns around and says to you his number one goal, and we don't know this point because we haven't sat down with him, but the odds are pretty great, right, Jake? That the first thing they're going to say is best price possible, most money in my pocket. That'll be the, so you might want to think about doing an as is and an as repaired. And if there really isn't a much difference, let's not do any work. I think we can get there. Okay. And by the way, I don't know how long that'll last. In the last 10 days, we've had more houses come on the market. I'm assuming Dean's probably looking at those too. So again, we're in a supply and demand, low inventory problem. As more houses come on, that weakens price. When less houses are on, that strengthens price. So I want him to get best price possible if that's his goal. I think waiting is his enemy, not his friend. Don't we all? That's the response.
And this is another objection, I
Mhm.
guess. Okay, so we have sell it myself, limit service company. So what if they interviewed 2 agents who are both full service agents, but one will reduce their commission? How do you overcome that? Will you match this?
Okay. So let me ask you, how many times did you have to ask that agent to reduce their commission? Okay, or maybe they just offered it,
Or
I
they
don't.
just offered, yeah.
Okay, well, certainly they know their value better than I do. That's the first thing out of my mouth anytime. Okay,
How about Amber? She's like, I recommend doing this.
yeah, which is kind of what I'm saying.
Right.
They know their value better than I. So when you and I talked about the marketing, we talked about what we were going to do to create that opportunity for you to have the best price possible. Best price possible is going to equate to more money in your pocket, yes? And right now, my sellers are averaging 108% of asking price. What percent is this other agent netting? Okay. The average right now is 100%. So for me, my sellers are getting 8% more than everybody else. So are we stepping over dollars, 1%? Is all they're asking for you to discount, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that still is, if they can get you 1%, now you're at 101%, and I'm still at 108%.
We should be charging more.
Well, you just need probably else to sell.
So how did you get the average?
Oh, for us, yes, we took our list price versus sold price. And by the way, this is since January 1st to now for us. And the board can give you that price on the list to sell. You can go online and see it on the statistics, list to sell. But our list to sell right now is 8%. And we can figure that by each sale that we did. Yeah, 100% right now for this year. It was 98 point something last year, but all hell broke loose on February 1st. So it's all changed, but we're at 108. So if I can net you 7% more, do we really want to talk about their 1% discount?
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay. All right. I had another hand up. Your hand, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it happens to me all the time, Dean.
I said, Okay, so say you have a ticketed listing, but you don't want to list to sell it.
Your office's list to sell, you could find out. Nobody could figure that out.
I don't keep track of that number because I keep track of my own.
But you could do, I mean, you could literally, it wouldn't be fun, but you could do the math on it. You can pull this, it would not be fun. But if you happen to need that, now, Jake, if you practiced your listing presentation 20 times and you go out on a listing presentation, they're not going to ask you that. Nobody ever asked me that. But I do know if they did ask me that, I'd say, well, certainly they know their value better than I. And by the way, my second one to that, because there should always be more ways to do this. My second one to that is simply this. If they can't negotiate the money that they feed their family with, how good a job are they going to negotiate your equity? You were looking for most money in your pocket, right? That you need a good negotiator for. Okay.
For me, the aha is using your stats. Because
Mhm.
seller, there's lots of different types of people, right? But the analytics of it, for some people, it's like use that percentage.
I do.
As ammo.
I do.
like
And
that.
it's part of my, in my presentation. And you notice the last 2 months when I've been here and we've gone through presentations, how many times have I said to people in here, where is your stat page? Where is your stat page? Where is your stat page? There should be one page, one graph that's on there. You have your stat page, don't you? Yeah. That's too bad. But didn't we talk about needing a stat page? Okay, and you haven't put it together yet?
Yeah, I have now.
Oh, okay, okay. So you can go see his stat page. Okay. But yeah, but again, if you have a really compelling presentation and you have a stat page in there, you'll probably not ever have to talk about any of these things. Okay, all right. Do we have any others? Because if not, I'm going to move on to session 5, which is a fast session 5. They did tell you this was going to be 2 hours instead of 1, right? Okay. So as I said, one of the guys in the office just thought it was pretty amazing when we went through the paperwork. And I have not thought it to be unique or anything else. But nonetheless, we're going to go through the paperwork. Okay. All right. And these aren't on the screen. So I'm hoping that I do a good enough job of describing them to my seller that you will know exactly what page I am covering. So this is so automatic for me. I have to have a pen to be at the point. I don't know how to do it if I don't have all my tools. Okay, so Jake, any reason that we shouldn't go ahead and move forward? Okay, perfect. So I'd like to go through the documents before we get to the end here. And I'd like to explain them to you since this is the first time you sold a house. I think it's really important that we go through them. So the first addendum, we're going to cover 3 addendums. The first addendum is actually instructions from you to me. And the reason I have this addendum is because the multiple listing service has a rule for all realtors. And that rule is that you only have 4 days when you take a new listing to put it on the MLS. And we don't want to put your house on the MLS in 4 days. You and I have walked through and said, you've got 2 weeks worth of work you're going to do. So we can't even get photos for 2 weeks, right? So this will usurp that. You're saying to me, Lee, I want you to do the photo on the day we picked, which was June 4th. Okay. And that we're going to put it on the MLS then the Wednesday before our grand opening. So that would be June 10th. And we're not going to have any showings until the grand opening, right? We're not letting the neighbors in. I'm not letting any of our buyer's agents sneak somebody in. Because remember, that first offer is the low offer, right? Okay, so we're going to do that on the grand opening. And then we're not going to look at offers until the Monday after the grand opening. Agreed? Okay, so by putting all of that in there, the MLS will let us put off that rule. Okay, that 4 days. And I'll just need you to sign it right there for me. Okay, all right. Yes, but the office has an addendum similar to that. Do you not, Dean?
What's that?
Maybe it's the MLS exclusion addendum.
Use the MLS addendum.
You can use the exclusion form, or you can do an addendum to the exclusive right to sell, stating what you're going to do.
Okay,
I take them off market, I don't use that addendum, but that's.
okay. Yeah, and I take them off market, but they're both in here, so we can do it either way. So this is really this accomplishes the same as that. Okay. All right. Next one is our cancellation agreement. And that simply says that, Jake, if you change your mind or you don't like working with me or you get a bee in your bonnet, you can cancel anytime before we go under contract and you owe me nothing. Okay. So if you'll just sign right here.
This is your.
Yeah.
So it's like a easy exit? Like a easy exit?
Easy exit.
Sure, I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, next one is our flexible commission rate. And that one says that if a realtor outside of the Stern team sells it, and there's 10,000 of them, that you'll pay 6%. I'll give 3% of that to the buyer's side and we'll keep 3%. Now, if one of my buyer's agents, and I've got 9 of them, bring in an offer, and this happens every month, then it'll be 5%. I will pay them 3%, I will keep 2% and figure I'd save some money in marketing. And if you bring the buyer and they're not represented by another realtor, I'll write up the offer, but then you'll only pay 2%. Okay. Now, at closing, no matter which way we go on this, you will pay a $300 marketing fee. Remember, my marketing cost is over $400,000 a year compared to the average realtor paying $5,000. And so this is how I prime the pump for marketing funds. Okay. So I'll need an initial right here and a signature right there. All right, so these 3 addendums usurp the state-approved listing form. So I want to go through that form with you paragraph by paragraph, if you don't mind. So this is simply between Keller Williams, Salt Lake City office, and you, Jake, as the seller. This expiration date on this is October 15th. It's roughly a 6-month listing. You have a cancellation, so I don't think we're going to need 6 months, but it's my standard practice to do 3 months or 6 months. The address of your property is here. And then when it asks for brokerage fee, instead of putting in an amount, I've typed in C addendum because I don't know if it's going to be a 6, a 5, or a 2. But you are agreeing that we will pay 3% to the buyer's agent and their company when they bring us the buyer. Agreed? Okay, wonderful. The state approved form says that, yes.
Why do you think that's necessary? We're in this market.
Oh, so you're asking me as the seller, yes? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I understand that we probably could get away with doing less, but again, I'm big on not stepping over dollars to pick up nickels. If you are a realtor, or let's say you're not a realtor, you go to your job on Monday and your boss says to you, Jake, we're going to cut your salary by 1/3 on Monday. How excited are you going to be about going to work on Tuesday? So since the agents determine what listings they bring the people to, how excited are they going to be coming to see your house? Might they choose other houses instead? Truth is, I want every buyer here. I want every buyer to have an opportunity to buy your house. And for that opportunity, they're going to pay top dollar. Let's not step over a 1% to, cut your nose off, spite your face kind of thing. Agreed? Okay, good. All right. So we have a protection period, and that simply says on the state approved form that if you cancel the agreement for whatever reason, if during the next 3 months, somebody who came through when I had it comes in and buys it from you, you'd owe me my commission. It's never happened in 49 years. I don't expect it's going to, but the state approved form has it. Okay. Next one is the seller's disclosure. That's that homework assignment that I emailed to. I want to thank you now for filling that all out honestly. And we've already checked it to make sure all the initials are there. All the questions are answered in the signatures in the middle of the last page. Okay. Just initial the bottom here and date it. Okay. Next one talks about agency relationships. So in Utah, it is perfectly legal for an agent to represent both the buyer and seller in the same transaction. It's called limited agency. And I believe personally, this is my own personal opinion, that the definition of limited agency is conflict of interest. I think you have been very clear to me that your goal is top dollar, yes? Guess what the buyers would like? The best deal they could get. I don't think they go together, and I won't be representing any buyers on your property.
In this brokerage, I don't allow dual agents.
Oh, perfect. So that's how I explain this, okay? So if a buyer needs to get into the house, they don't have an agent, I'm happy to show it to them. If the buyer needs a referral to an agent, I'm happy to do that. But the only horse I have in this race is you. Okay. Now, truthfully, though, there may be this limited guy. So I work in an office that's got over 250 agents. If one of them brings the buyer, and there are a lot of good agents in my office, we both work for our broker called Dean. So Dean might then be that limited person. He'll have to be that neutral third party trying to represent both of you. Just know there's nothing neutral about me. Okay, perfect. Professional advice. I'm not a roofer, nor am I an accountant. So there'll be times that maybe we'll have questions that I won't know, and we'll go seek out a source. If you don't know somebody, I've got a very fat Rolodex, and we'll find somebody, okay? All right. This form says that if you and I get sideways, we'll try to work it out. And then the form says if we don't work it out and we go to court, losing party pays the attorney's fees. We have a cancellation agreement. If we get sideways, I assume you're going to fire me, right? Okay. And then you're telling me to advertise at every darn place I think I should. Okay. Initial and date for me, okay? All right. So we're going to use county records for the square footage unless you happen to have an appraisal or floor plans, but we have to have a verifiable source. Great. We'll use county records. That's what I've got. This says that we've got to make sure that we're disclosing if there's any personal property that's not staying. So for example, the light above our head here at the kitchen table, it's attached to the house. It stays in a buyer's mind. So if you're thinking you're going to, then we should change it out before we do photos. Okay. The one that trips most people up is the mount on a TV. The TV is yours. The mount is with the house. It's attached. And by the way, you don't want to unattach the mount because it leaves a hole about like this. It's really hard to fix and make look perfect. Okay. All right. We do have attachments, addendums to this. We've already gone through those. You're not a foreigner, so we're not moving the money to a foreign country either. Our equal opportunity says we don't care who buys the house. We want all people who want to be interested to come on out. Okay. Next one says electronic signatures are legal, and we'll probably use those through DocuSign. Initial and sign for me, please. Next one is the due on sale. We're not planning on letting anybody assume your loan, so we don't need to worry about due on sale. This is the entire agreement. Anything else that we do, we will do in writing always, not verbally. Today will be the effective date, and you are indeed the authorized signer, yes? Great, I'll need a signature and an initial. Okay, next is our data entry form for the multiple listing. I am going to need your help on a little bit of this, but the first thing I want to point out is this is the one and only place that price is on. Okay, so I'd like you to fill in the price for me. Okay, I think we agreed on. That's exactly right. So if you'll just write that number right in here, 450,000. Okay, great. Now we'll go through each of these. You know how to fill out a data entry sheet. These sheets that have all of the check marks, those are the ones I want them to double check every time. So that I mean, I've been through the house typically now just once. They know it better than I. So have them do that. Okay. Next one is the multiple offer disclosure. So in Utah, there are 3 ways, Jake, that you can handle offers. The first way is we get an offer and you instruct me to just bring it to you as they come, and you'll accept, reject, or counter them. And that is what most of the agents are doing. It's not the way we're doing it though, right? Second way I think is ridiculous. I've never used it. It says you have the right to counter 2 people identically, and the fastest responder wins. Truthfully, I don't think any 2 offers will be identical. One will be stronger than the other, so it doesn't make sense to me. The third way is the way you and I have discussed, and that's where you've said to me, Lee, matter of fact, we put it in an addendum. Lee, you're going to bring me all the offers at one time the day after that Monday after the grand opening. And I'd like to review all of them at that time and make my decisions based on that. Okay, so just so you know, as offers come in, and some will come in over the weekend, but I'm going to tell everybody we're not looking at them until Monday. So a lot of people will wait till Monday to send them in. When I get the offers, I'll shoot you a text that says, got one, got another, got one, got another. But here's what you need to know. I won't open them. So don't ask me what they're for. Okay, it is my policy to not do that. So I can't give any agent an unfair advantage in any kind of market. And I think that serves you well as far as getting top dollar. Okay, perfect. So this is the actual notice of multiple offers. Right now in this market, I'm sometimes not having to use this because they all know I have multiple offers. But if I end up in a situation where not everybody does, then I must use this multiple offer form so that again, so that everyone knows there's multiple offers. If the first guy thinks he's the only guy, he may not have given us his highest and best. But if these guys know there's already another guy, they probably come in with highest and best already. So I just want to make sure that everybody gives us their highest and best. So that's what this form is for. So let's go ahead and sign that one. You can date it today. Yes. Yep. Keep them all on a level playing field. All right. Next one is our notification that we're going to be using Real Advantage Title. We have a marketing agreement and people by using Real Advantage Title. However, what I love about Real Advantage is they price out to get my people the best title rates on their closings. So if I can have you date it up here and a signature down here. They're also in my office. It makes it very easy for you and I. Yeah, they price out. Yep, match it out. Next one is actually authorization for Real Advantage to check for liens and encumbrances, check with the HOA and get your loan payoff. So I'll need the last 4 digits of your social, your date of birth, a signature, and then, yep, that's all I need on this one. Okay. All right, next one, would you raise your right hand, please? And solemnly swear that you will never, ever, ever wire money based on an email alone. So help me, Lee. Based on an email alone. So help me, Lee. Okay. As funny as it sounds to make you raise your hand, truthfully, I do it because you'll never forget that we just did that. Okay. This won't affect you at all on the sale of your home. This will affect you when you go to buy a home. You're a good fund state. All money does have to be wired. And those people who are scamming and sneaking into your email, the title's email, the lender's email, my email, will follow the story and they will send you a fake email. Okay, not uncommon. All right, perfect. We don't have to do lead-based paint because it's old or newer than 1978. Next one is simply when I list a house, I always put in seller coverage for my sellers. So we're going to cover that. Now, it doesn't cover everything. Furnace goes out, we're going to have coverage. You got a leak under your kitchen sink, we're going to have coverage. So here's what I want, and what I want you to remember. Doesn't cost you anything. And if something breaks in the house, the first person you call is me, not a repairman. Because if we can cover it without it costing you, I want to do that, okay? All right, excellent. And then one more thing, and that is that I want to talk to you about a promise that we have on our team. We call it our promise. It's actually a goal that I make this an experience better than you could possibly ever have imagined it to be, okay? All of the people on my team, the systems that we use are all designed on delivering on that promise. Now it's real estate and there are people. So doesn't mean we won't occasionally have a challenge. But my goal is to get ahead of those challenges and keep it as smooth as it can be. How does that sound? Okay, good. Now I got another personal goal, and that is that you'll be feeling so good about the experience that when you hear of somebody who's thinking about buying or selling, that you'll be referring them to me. And referrals are my lifeblood. So you'd be willing to do that if it's going great for you, right? Okay. I'd actually, Jake, like you to take it one step farther. When you hear of somebody, even if they have a question about refinancing or about home ownership or any of that, I'd like you to call, text, or email me with their name and number so that there's a 100% chance that I can talk to them. Could you do that?
Sure.
That'd be awesome. Now, if we get down to closing and you haven't referred anybody to me, then I'm going to have the tough conversation. And that conversation is gonna go like this. What is it, Jake, that I or my team could have done better to earn your referrals? You okay with that?
Yeah.
But you'll pick up the phone and call me, right?
Yeah.
That'll be it. Okay, great. Okay, that's it. Okay. So, like I said, I don't know that it's anything special, but I do know that for 7, he went, holy cow, that was way easier or better than how he had been doing it. And oh, a lot. And a lot also send us referrals in that first 90 days afterwards if you stay in touch with them. Our biggest source of business is referrals from current clients. It is for everybody. And the reason being is that, while they are in the process of buying or selling, it's on their mind. They're focused on it. So at work, it's what they're talking about. Well, suddenly because they're talking about it, now everybody else in their office is talking about it. And they suddenly go, oh my gosh, so-and-so's thinking about buying. So-and-so, I'm going out looking at open houses. Oh my gosh. So it's I think about it like my Prius. When I bought my first Prius, I couldn't find a single one on any dealership in town. I had to order it online. I had to wait like 2 or 3 months to get it. So it arrived 2 or 3 months later. Now I'm seeing them everywhere. They're at the stoplights, they're at the gas station. Well, that's just my RAS working, my reticular activator. What I'm focused on is now happening. So that is what happens. And that's why so much of our business comes from that. But it only comes from that, Jake, because we tell them that we expect it. And every time I call my clients, for example, when we've got the photography scheduled and we're just confirming the time he's coming, because we know the date, we already set that up while you and I were sitting here. But now we'll call you for that. And I'll say, by the way, Jake, have you thought about who I should be helping next?
Look at her eyes. So excited.
I am. I am.
Well, yeah, I think actually you start thinking about how else could benefit.
Yeah, yeah.
pushing in on this
Yeah,
opportunity.
yeah. And then when the inspection is ordered and I've got to call and schedule that time with you, it's like, who should I be helping next? Have you run into anybody? And so each time I have a good news call, so the appraisal comes back and, appraisal came in, we're good to go. By the way, who should I be calling next? And so I asked 5 times, including at the closing table, and whether they have or haven't given me a referral. I always, when the title company goes out to make the copies of the documents, I always say, wow, Jake, it's come to that. I'm unemployed. Who else should I be helping? And they look at me so seriously, and so often they go, you're not really unemployed. Well, all the time we've gotten to spend all this fun time together. Who's going to fill those hours for me? Okay, so that's how we do that. Make sense? Okay, then.
Now you've taken all the notes down on your envelope.
Yeah.
What do you do with that?
This, so Ben, if you ever come to the Sugar House office, come all the way to the back. They've hidden me all the way in the back, which is a good place to hide me. And you'll walk in my office and you will see years worth of manila envelopes stacked. I keep them all. Yeah. For me on a prospecting day, it's easier for me to grab a stack of those and just start going through and making calls. So yeah, I mean, it's dumb. Don't do it that way. It's way better to be paperless. But I'm old. So paper is what I do.
Mark on there
Yeah.
anywhere, like got the deal or didn't get this deal, and you can put that in a different file and focus.
Yeah, if I lost it to somebody else, which happens a couple times a year, I throw that envelope out. I wish I could burn it. They won't let me burn inside my office. But if it's one that's not going to do it yet, can't qualify, whatever the, type of thing is, like this guy, that guy, those just stay on my desk. Actually, they stay in a different pile. They stay on the weekly pile. And it's easier for me with the envelopes to set up my fudge distribution at Christmas I mean, it's a bad system I have, but it works for me. So that's the truth. The
What's
fu-
the fudge system?
Oh, I make hundreds of pounds of fudge and hand deliver the whole month of December. That's all I do. is- No, no, it's, I pray they're not home and I'm excited that they are. Yeah,
I can relate to that.
yeah, it's a long, it's a long conversation. This year was really nice because of COVID. I didn't go, well, I had 3 houses that they'd built new houses and I hadn't been in them yet. So we both masked up so I could see their new houses, their new construction houses that they'd moved into. But everybody else, I got the thing, rang the doorbell, put the fudge down, stepped back to the first step and said, not coming in, COVID. But how are you doing? So it was really great because it was shorter visits, but no, they all get fudge. And I make it myself and they've now started, like, they put in their request for which flavor and, oh my gosh. I started
So
something,
Is this just the people you closed on that year?
well,
or
no, it's people I closed on that year, anybody who's given me a referral. And I've got some A clients in my thing. So I think I delivered 167 of them. Yeah, it's a month. I don't know. It's a lot. I don't know. It's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot. Yeah. But it's good fudge. It's easy fudge to make. It's just, it's what I do. I probably shouldn't have started it 50 years ago, but I did. And so now I have to keep doing it. Okay. All right. And I need ahas. I need ahas before we're done. We still have 10 minutes that I can do ahas. So what did you get out of this one today?
Well, anything of value, but for me, the more, when you say, I ask for the glass of water, so they give me like, yes,
Yes.
that is awesome.
Yeah, it's just an easy one.
I love
Okay.
it all, but with the paperwork stuff, wondering why is that so good? Well, every time I've done listing or gotten the paperwork done, I don't include probably half those forms that you did, and it's like a frenzy when it comes up, like, oh shoot, we gotta send this one out, you forgot it, And then I love how you just have it all there at the beginning,
Yeah.
so even the title.
Yeah.
It's usually the title company will reach out to them,
Yeah.
fill this out, and it's a big pain to get them to, if it has wet generally.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting when I did this one, I just did this one yesterday in Sugar House. And their number of the agents there only do the data entry sheet and the listing addendum or the listing contract. And that's all they do. And they have the transaction coordinator send out the rest of it. That surprised me because it means that there's no explanation being given to those sellers of what they're actually signing. They're just on sure trust, which from a point of view of if you ever ended up in court over something, you're pretty weak compared to how I would be, because I have
Well,
go through.
I tend to DocuSign everything too, here's it all, but I really think it takes.
Yeah, well, I think you have an obligation, and the court of law would believe you had an obligation to explain it.
Yeah.
So that's a real important thing to think about, and you can do that online, but it's harder. Not as much fun. Okay.
When I was, again, over Woodside Homes, when I would go over their contract, it was around 64 pages. But up front, I would just tell them, I'm gonna go over the things I think are going to be the most important to you. Is that kind of how when you're talking about things?
I went through every paragraph, Ben. I covered every single paragraph.
It's not that
Because I don't
long,
like
but
talking about.
And it didn't take long. It didn't take long, did it? No. Yeah, so I'll paraphrase, but and then if they have a question, you can stop and discuss it. But you need to learn how to paraphrase 64 paragraphs or, 24 paragraphs. No. Well, one, we had attorneys fill them out, so no. I've shared everything else with you that I don't have attorneys fill out, but Dean can help you with any of that kind of stuff. You've already got the one that the MLS now uses. You have to understand, I'm going to take full credit for this. So for the first, for probably 2 years after I joined Josh's team, we paid anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 a month in fines to the MLS because we were unwilling to put our listings on the MLS within 4 days. That was, I think it was 3 days back then, if I remember correctly. And I tried to meet with them. I tried to explain it to them, blah, blah, blah. So when they hired Brad, who was the CEO of the MLS, the first week on his job, Josh and I took him to lunch and said, here's what we do. We shouldn't have to pay $1,000 to $2,000. And ultimately, he then talked to the board of directors there. They came back and said, Lee, the reason they're making you do that is because they're afraid that you're trying to sell all your listings yourself. And I said, great, pull up all my sales for the last 3 years. I have sold exactly 0 of them. There is no evidence to support that belief. And they said, well, we don't think it's, and then they went from that one to, we don't think it's fair to the buyers. And I went, oh, let's be clear. I have no contracts with any of those buyers. I don't frankly care if I'm fair with them or not. I have one horse in the race. It's the seller. So
What do you mean by selling yourself?
yeah, dual agency, and I'm not. And I said, and I reversed it on them and said, okay, here's my thought of the buyer that I see in my head. What about the single mom who's got kids in daycare, who works full time? So she can't get out during the day to go see a house. Matter of fact, after work, she's got to pick up kids. And after that, she's got to feed the kids. And then if she's lucky, maybe at 8 o'clock at night, she could go out and see a house. So your way of doing it, what kind of opportunity does it give her? None. My way of doing it, where nobody comes into the grand opening on a Saturday, allows for everyone to have that opportunity. So they still wouldn't give it to us. And then I had even people on our board of directors saying, calling to both Josh and I, you know, it's illegal, it's whatever. Once we got approval to do the addendum, then we started getting the calls from all of them saying it's illegal. And I'm like, it's not. Call Brad. But more importantly, we'd love for you to come out to our office. We'll show you exactly the form that we're using and how we're using it, and teach you how to do it so you can do it the same way. Not one of the complainers was willing to come out. So then we stopped listening, but we did have to stop them paying $1,000 to $2,000 a month. So this little exclusion form is because we were paying a lot of money and created quite a ruckus. Why we do business now the way we're doing business is in large part because of what we did early on years ago.
So you're just saying just make it
Take it off market. Yeah. I will tell you that my off-market sellers are having a real problem. I'm tempted to put my house on the market and take my own house and pull it off market just to see how this is happening. But the FSBO lists that they get include off market.
Yeah, we've been talking about that as a board.
Yeah. Yeah, and they did get one name recently, and so I called the agent and I said, I'm assuming that you did this as a for sale by owner, and he said, Lee, I did. And I said, you got to watch it more carefully. He said, I appreciate the phone call. But she got, 2 and 3 calls a day. And that's not supposed to happen. Yeah. Yep. 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 And they're not expired. So my belief is we should have a coming soon category. That's what I explained to Brad when we first got together. We had an off-market category that wasn't being used, and that's why they use that for this. They meant it to be a coming soon. I'm like, okay, well, it's still pulling up on the red X and the other guy's numbers, so they need to pull it. The one where I say if they're not happy, fire me.
I do it on all my listings.
Absolutely.
Well, and we also have some other specific Westfield forms that weren't included in her files.
Right.
So you need to add those to your.
Yeah, and mine are in a specific order. I mean, I have to have a pen in hand in this order. You notice me switching them around because I'm leaving to go to another appointment from here. This is the actual packet I use. I need it exactly in order to be as smooth as I am with it. Okay.
And
All right.
what did you come
Say,
Logical order.
yeah, for me, it's logical. Probably it could be in another order. Okay, any other ahas from the back of the room? Back of the room's been kind of quiet. Travis?